What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, Limited Run Games held their showcase and they announced a ton of different things. Yes, physical copies, but also brand new game reveals, and we're going to go over everything that they announced here today. Also, we are going to be talking about one announcement that we're kind of separating a bit because it is a big reveal from Ubisoft, even though they've leaked it multiple times, but it's a classic, and it's actually coming a bit sooner maybe than people were expecting. And then we also have Microsoft, who rather than pulling back from Gamescom similar to Sony, appears to be doubling down, holding their biggest showing yet at that event. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members to the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with Nintendo Switch Online and that mature rated app that has now Perfect Dark. People have been playing it, of course, and it seems like the emulation for this game in particular hasn't been great. Now, we can see this post up over on Nintendo Life. They are quoting Grasslew here, who has a series of posts on X, Twitter, where they demonstrate how the game is just not a very good version on NSO compared even to the original Nintendo 64. They point out a number of things tied to textures, lighting, performance, frame rate, online play, which, I mean, look, NSO's online play with these retro titles has been very much connection dependent and even seems almost like geographical location, right? If it just wants to work that day. Well, it does appear that a lot of stuff is wrong with this version, as well as the biggest one being the dizzy blur effect that happens in the game. When you're hit with like tranquilizers, that kind of thing, you'll get this really weird blur effect. And you can get really bad with the N64 to where it's almost impossible to see what's going on, but it appears that it just outright breaks the game itself and what it looks like on Nintendo Switch Online, that version of Perfect Dark. So there is a lot of work Nintendo would have to do here to fix this game, we'll say. I guess the one silver lining is they've done this before in the past with things like Ocarina of Time or Mario Kart, to name a few. So they can update this going along and maybe getting it at least to a point where it's not as bad as it looks now, because this does look pretty bad in terms of emulation. In some cases, Grasslew made the comparison to a 2007 N64 emulator for the quality. Also, we do now have a release date for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate, this being the game that's very similar to like a Hades style, a roguelike, that's been tied to Apple Arcade for quite some time now. So it's really exciting to see it move over now to the Switch. And with the new trailer you can see here, the release date coming July 17th. We already knew it was coming out in July, but now we know it is less than a month away. And I will be picking this one up on the Switch. I spent some time with it in Apple Arcade, and that was one of the big surprises coming out of that experience, checking out their library of games. This one certainly stood out. That, of course, just being this interesting take with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but also the online play was really cool. The surprising cameos and bits of lore that they pulled from for maybe even the bosses in the game were very impressive. So yeah, I think this is a good one to pick up, and I don't have to wait too much longer. Like I said, a month, and I do recommend more and more people try this one out, especially if you like the idea of maybe a co-op style Hades game that has like just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles plastered all over it. Oh, and it does look like Sony is bringing their rewards program to an end, which for many people out there, they're just now learning there was a rewards program. It was tied to like the credit card you could get with the PlayStation logo on it. You'd be able to earn points and use it towards things like PlayStation Plus memberships as an example, but we can see this posted up. This is over on PlayStation Lifestyle, where as of today, June 20th, new members will not be accepted into the programs, and while you can continue to earn points, you will have to redeem them by December 31st. All right, now Sony did sign off saying that there's always something new on the horizon. Does make me think that sure, they could be revamping this in some way and having a new rewards program, and a lot of that just comes down to having more and more people stick with your platform. Just engagement through rewards has shown it does help just to keep people engaged in your platform, in your ecosystem, and that's kind of where I would expect this to go, because I wasn't even really that aware that there was a PlayStation rewards program or Sony rewards program tied to PlayStation that was ongoing. So maybe they'll spend some time, figure it out a bit better, and then come back to the table with something that they're even willing to push a bit more. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Limited Run Games. They had their presentation. It was streamed. It was roughly 37 minutes long, and it had just over 30 games that were at least revealed here in some way. Could have been a physical copy that you'll get a year or two from now. It's Limited Run Games. They're shipping it's not great necessarily, their time for delivery, I'll say, because most of the time you're just waiting for it to ship out and it can take quite a while. But they also showed off many games you can just buy digitally on set release dates that are coming up. And some of these were genuinely surprising. So we're going to go through the entire event here, starting at the top. With Dark Forces Remastered, these would be for physical copies of the game. Of course, that the digital copy is already out there, but pre-orders are now live, so you can check that one out. And come on, Limited Run, you have to do, at this time, look, Dark Forces 1, great game. You gotta do Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight. That game is legendary, and there really hasn't been much done to it at all. I would absolutely pick that up, especially if it was similar to what they did here with Dark Forces Remaster. I'll get the physical copy, the whole thing. So come on, Limited Run Games, don't let me down. Then we have Valis, the Phantasm Soldier Collection 3. That's summer 2024. Rain World, it's 2024. Fighting Force Collection. That is one that was a bit out of left field for me. I am interested, though, in Fighting Force Collection. That's one that, on and off, I remember playing back in the day at a friend's house. I think, I'm trying to remember which one I played. I just remember it was Fighting Force. But 2025. Then we have Renane. That's fall 2024. Wolfenstein 2 Switch. This is a physical copy, and this seemed to throw people off. So much so that I had messages come to me like, what is this? I kind of wonder if this is Wolfenstein 2, but actually on the cartridge. If you remember, the Wolfenstein 2 New Colossus on the Switch, that had a blue banner at the top because you would basically download the game, essentially, right? So maybe they got it all in one cartridge, and that's what this means. Either way, that they just said 2024 for that. Then we have Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2, the physical version. G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra looks awesome. This is one I'm interested in checking out, but that's physically there. Assault Suit Leonis 2 Saturn Tribute. Again, some of these are pretty niche, but again, that's 2024. Snow Bros Wonderland, it's 2024. Gimmick 2. 2024, C Smash VRS Physical. We talked about this before when it was revealed, as well as it having a PSVR 2 mode for it, or version, and that's what I'm interested in just because we don't really get a lot of physical PlayStation VR 2 games, so maybe I'll check that one out. It is from the Dreamcast days. Again, kind of a niche, several niche announcements in here. Penny's Big Breakaway, that's physically 2024. Awesome game if you haven't checked it out. It's actually from the creators of Sonic Mania. So really, really cool game there. Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary, physical and collector's editions. That is live July 12th, so you can check that on the website. We are going to circle back around to Beyond Good and Evil. Don't worry, there is something very, very interesting. Something that definitely caught my eye with some of the press details that went out about that. Jay and Silent Bob, Chronic Blunt Punch, that's physically releasing. And I think back on the cartoon series for Jay and Silent Bob and Clerks. That was an interesting time in animation history, but we have a lot of these beat 'em ups. Like, for example, Toxic Crusaders Physical. It's another one. I do like how many beat 'em ups we're getting because that formula, that gameplay formula, really has not grown old at all. So keep these beat 'em ups coming because they are a lot of fun to pick up, especially if they tap that nostalgia bone for you. Hitman Blood Money Reprisal, that's getting a physical copy. Fear Effect, this is a re-release, 2025, PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam. By the way, this is a common trend that you probably saw throughout the show. The Xbox logo is not present on more than half of these releases, so that was something that people started to realize as they went through this show and had a lot of questions around that one. One that did have an Xbox logo, though, was Starship Troopers Extermination. It's getting a physical copy, also coming summer 2024. That actually looks all right. I'm curious about that, and some of that I'm sure has to do with the Helldivers 2 release, reinvigorating some of the Starship Troopers interest, so I will keep an eye on that one, that first-person view. Again, a bit different from Helldivers 2, but still sort of in that same vein. Then we have Lollipop Chainsaw Repop that is getting a physical copy. Pre-orders for that open next month. I'm excited for this one. It's definitely tapping, it sounds weird to say this, but nostalgia days for those arcade action Xbox 360 games. So it seems like they are staying true to that original release and extra added coat of paint and stuff to it, sure. And they're gonna also have a version you can play that I guess isn't uncut. I'll be playing the uncut version of that, I guess. Double Shake, that's 2025. Then we have Ghosts, 2025. Rugrats Adventures in Gameland, still just coming soon, but this looks awesome. And it is definitely playing into that 8-bit platformer, so much so that you can change between the more retro visuals and the more modern HD visuals, but it just looks awesome. Again, going back to the old days of picking up an NES controller and probably dying a lot to some very cheap jumps, but still a lot of fun. Gex Trilogy, those pre-orders open fall 2024. Shantae Advance, that's 2025. Ninja 5-0, physical pre-orders July 5th. This is a game that's very, very expensive on the Game Boy Advance, which is very, very annoying. I know you can emulate this stuff, sure, but if you want the actual cartridge, it's way too much money. And it's kind of a unique title. It was at that time where we were getting these platformers, but could still kind of tap the graphical look of the PS1, right? So you would sort of have that almost 2D, 3D look to these games with a lot of really good animation, and Ninja 5-0 was one of those titles, so that is one I'm going to be checking out. Clock Tower Rewind, that's fall 2024. Then we have Tomba Special Edition, August 1st. We have the release date there, of course. Physical pre-order is starting July 19th, and then they followed it up with Tomba 2. PS4, PS5, Switch, Steam. That's right, no Xbox logo again. People were quick to point that out. But that is exciting stuff. We have Tomba 1 and Tomba 2. That's the one I was really interested in. I mean, look, Tomba 1 is great to see that, but I think a lot of people were hoping that would lead to Tomba 2, and now we have that. We need more information around when it's coming out, but still exciting stuff to keep an eye on there. And they closed out with Bubsy, the Perfect Collection, PS5, Xbox Series, we have an Xbox logo, Switch, and Steam. I don't really know if Bubsy is the closeout for most people, but I'm sure there's someone out there who's really excited for that one. I never really got into Bubsy back in the day, but hey, not a bad idea to have a collection, kind of bring that up to modern times for a new audience. And I have to give them credit here. Limited Run Games had a pretty good showcase. Yes, a lot of it is tapping nostalgia, but I think with what we're seeing, kind of the evolution of that Carbon engine really catching on and seeing a lot of these games show up physically even, it's an exciting time. Yes, for older people like myself, but you know, it's still fun just to see even what will pop up. As I mentioned, many of the announcements were fairly niche, but there are some genuine surprises because of that. And really, to me now, every year, seeing the Limited Run Games showcase pop up and really try to come up what extremes they can go to surprise people with some of these, we'll say out of left field announcements, it's exciting and it's something to look forward to. Next up, let's talk about Ubisoft's big reveal, that being Beyond Good and Evil. We had already heard that this was going to be a thing because it completely leaked out. People downloaded it, they played it. This was, like last year or something. It got pulled back by Ubisoft, and then they accidentally tweeted out an entire thing advertising the release date earlier on in the morning before Limited Run Games had their event. So it hasn't been great for Ubisoft just in the lead up to the announcement and release of this game. But when we did get that trailer, we also got a bunch of information that was dropped through press release, and there's something in here that makes me very curious about where this game is going to take us. So let's start from the top here with some of the features and things that we can look forward to with this one. This being the Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary. It is releasing June 25th on all platforms. So yeah, it's out next week. That is cutting it very, very close for that reveal to release, but I don't mind. It's very close to a shadow drop either way. But it is up to 4K, 60 FPS, of course, where applicable on which system you buy it on. I assume on the Switch, 1080, 60, we'll see there. But we'll have improved graphics, improved controls, and audio. There is an anniversary gallery, and they say you can discover more about Jade's childhood in the new treasure hunt. The Verge and Noisy Pixel were told it would have autosave and cross-save features. So I understand that this is something you could use between the Switch and the PlayStation, Switch Xbox, Switch PC, I guess. So you save it on one and just pick it right up on the other. I think that might also be tied to your Ubisoft account, so we'll have to look into that and see if that is something you have to make sure you have all set up for this to work. They also mentioned 20 plus new achievements, and get this, there will be an exclusive new mission for this version of the game that will reveal a narrative link to Beyond Good and Evil 2. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's still alive. The dream is still out there for Beyond Good and Evil 2. It has now been referenced once again by Ubisoft, and it's been years since they've officially referenced it in any way, whether it's at an event or in a press release. They have done so here. And I am curious because now we're talking about new content for Beyond Good and Evil, a game that, by the way, back when it came out in 2003. It was right around Prince of Persia. I do remember that one. I actually played it on GameTap, like a year or two later or something. That's where I played it, on PC. Game Tap. I'm curious how many people out there who are watching this remember that service on PC, but I played it there and I thought it was fine, but I haven't played it since. So I'm curious about how it holds up, and I will be picking this up to try it out. And of course, I want to play through it to where I can see what this link now is to Beyond Good and Evil 2, and maybe there's some clues and stuff in there. All of a sudden, this remaster of a game that's 20 years old just became way more interesting. So we'll see, I'm sure, more information about that link to Beyond Good and Evil 2 and maybe how they're setting things up for that release. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Microsoft at Gamescom, because while we just talked about Sony backing away from Gamescom, it appears that Microsoft is doubling down once again on the event. And I say that once again because while it's become very common for Sony to skip Gamescom, it's actually become very common for Microsoft to not only attend, but attend like full force. And now they appear to be bringing the biggest booth, or at least the biggest space at Gamescom that they've ever had. And they told us about this, we can see in a tweet. This is from Microsoft's or Xbox official account, saying the Xbox team is heading back to Gamescom. Visit us at our biggest booth yet, August 21st to the 25th. And of course, speculation broke out as to what they could have there. Will they have that new handheld or something else? Well, then they decided to follow up and say, you want to know about the games? Well, just a few you can expect to see. Age of Mythology Retold, Avowed, Aura History Untold, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, Diablo Immortal, The Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout 76 Towerborn, and World of Warcraft The War Within. More to come. So it kind of makes sense why they would have the biggest booth yet, because they have a ton of games to show off. Some, of course, coming out later this year, which we still need release dates for. They mentioned Avowed, but Indiana Jones being another big one. And I think there's going to be a few other surprise reveals, and then obviously some Game Pass additions. This should be stuff that's more geared towards like the European market, much like when they go to a Tokyo Game Show, or at least have some sort of stream around that time. It'll be more geared towards the Japanese market. But this is something definitely keep an eye on here, because Microsoft has made some, I don't want to say significant announcements at Gamescom, but they have had some revelations and interviews, and that might be the thing to really keep an eye on, because Matt Booty just had an entire interview and people were still asking a lot of questions as to what's going on with Xbox and first party and going to other platforms and staying exclusive. You know, they're probably gonna have to dodge a lot of those questions at Gamescom, and I guess it'll be interesting to see how exactly they dance around some of those absolute answers that people are gonna be calling for. But yeah, it seems like at least Gamescom with Microsoft, they're going to go there, and they're going to go there in a big way. So we'll see if anything major comes out of Gamescom from all of that, especially with Xbox having their biggest booth yet. Maybe they'll have some fun reveals to go alongside of some of the expected stuff heading into the holidays. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, do you still have a PS4 or Xbox One connected to your TV right now? Try to ambush some of you with this one. I understand many of you answer very truthfully, of course, with these polls, but the PS4, 24% of you still have it hooked up as you read this poll question. 9% with the Xbox One. Hey, 7% of you still have both of those original systems hooked up. And then 60% just don't have any hooked up right now at all, which I think is falling more and more in line with what Microsoft and Sony would tell us, where it is starting to skew more towards PS5 and Xbox Series. But yeah, I mean, plenty of people still have that PS4 up and running. And I mean, based on the cross-generation period, I kind of get it. So we'll see maybe this holiday going into 2025, and we start hearing more and more rumblings of GTA 6 and people getting ready for that release, if we see a major spike towards PS5 away from the PS4. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from JG King, who says, I just love the bipolar attitude of gamers and gaming sites. Xbox is dead, Sony is great, Nintendo is doing well. Next day, Xbox destroying everyone, Sony's in trouble. Nintendo was doing well. Rinse, repeat over and over and over again. And you know, it's really funny. That part very much so reminds me of just like the sports world. So if you watch a game or you're around other fans of a team, they will absolutely obliterate that team in real time if they go down by 2 touchdowns or they're down by 20 or something in basketball. They'll just start annihilating the different players on the team, how terrible they are. And then all of a sudden, let's say they make this major comeback and it's the greatest team they've ever seen on the court or on the field. Never seen anything like it before, right? They're just incredible. They love the team. So it is funny that kind of, as you mentioned, the bipolar nature, swinging back and forth, that pendulum, it exists in many other mediums. And that's one of the reasons I do look at sort of the gaming audience and the sports audience in very similar fashions at times. You kind of have fanboys with the video games. They just have outright fans with the sports world, but those emotions, they swing wildly either way. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was limited run games showcase? Was anything that really stood out to you there, or maybe something that surprised you? And then also, what about Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary? This release apparently gonna link us to Beyond Good and Evil 2. Are you picking it up for that, or this is gonna be your first time ever playing it? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.